Hello and welcome to a brand new podcast called Movies with Mom. I'm Josh. My mom will be introduced later, but first I want to give you a little background. I am someone who has done podcasts before, a couple here and there. I was a co-host on the Here's What You Missed on Glee podcast with Brett, Dylan, and Dustin, who you might know if you listen to Is This Good?, which is a podcast that Dylan and Brett do. And I was also on that as a guest a couple times, but now that I'm back in California for a indeterminate but hopefully short amount of time, I will be doing this podcast with my mom to determine what movies you guys should be seeing and help you figure out what is and isn't worth checking out in theaters and at home if you have the option. So how it's going to work is that every week we're going to alternate who gets to pick what movie. So for this first week, I picked the movie, and I picked a movie in theaters. And for next week, she can pick a movie, and she can pick one either in theaters or one that's available on Netflix or Hulu or any way to access it, DVDs. We'll see what it is. She is right here and ready to introduce herself, I guess. She's recording a bit with her camera, which is a little frustrating because it's very unprofessional, but go ahead, introduce yourself.
I'm Mom. I can record if I want because I'm Mom. Hi, I'm the mom of Movies with Mom. That Josh.
What's your
Josh's
name?
mom.
Tell him your name.
But I thought I was known as Mom.
No.
It's Melissa.
This isn't.
My name
this
is
isn't like
Melissa.
a clown act or
The mom. You can call me Mom. Anyway.
Are we going to review Trainwreck at any point? Because I feel like that's what this is going to be. We might be our own.
Just because I have a glass of wine in my hand, what?
So I would like to issue an apology in advance. There is some construction going on in our house, so if you hear any sounds of screwdrivers and hammers, that is happening in the room above us. Just wanted to give you that quick warning. It should be not that loud, but we'll see. I have woken up from it before.
Aww.
So let's talk about our tastes a bit before we get into the movie we saw this week. I consider myself a film buff to the point where I've been criticized by coworkers when I worked at the movie theater for having too good of tastes, or as they said, too snobby of tastes, but I would say too good of tastes, because customers would often come to me and ask me what I suggest they see, customers who didn't have an idea of what they wanted to see, which is bizarre in its own right. But sometimes they'd come to me specifically at the box office and ask what I would suggest because they knew that I would give them something that was worth their money and time. What is your taste like?
I like comedy, you know that. I like movies to make me laugh and to make me cry. So I like drama. Thrillers, not so much. Well, I like thrillers. I just don't like really violent movies. So that if I have to see, you know, I like Quentin Tarantino, I know it's coming and it's so fake, it's not a big deal. But movies that are like really violent, rape scenes, stuff like that, I hate. So some movies are hard for me to watch. Don't want to watch them. I'm not really a film buff like you, obviously.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you anything about genres or any of that.
I'm sure people saw from the title of this episode, the premiere episode, that we saw a movie called Green Room, which we'll get into in a little bit, but it was a thriller, so that's going to be interesting to hear your take on it as someone who doesn't like thrillers, especially ones as violent as this movie was. But let's get into specific tastes. Let's talk about our favorite movies. So my top 5 favorite movies, and I don't expect you to have top 5. I told you, for those of you listening, she made a face at me as if I'm blindsiding her right now, when yesterday I told her,
face like, oh shit, I forgot.
There's going to be a lot of forgetting on this podcast.
Give me a pen.
So I told her to make a list of at least her top 3. And because not everyone can make a top 5. People can't even make a top 3 usually, or at least not in order. But I suggested and recommended and warned her to make a top 3. So she's making a list now. While she's doing that, I'll tell you my top 5. And mine are in order from number 5 to number 1. So is that ascending? Ascending order or descending? Ascending in quality, descending in numerical value. Yes. Number 5 is Heathers, the 1989 dark comedy that led to stuff like Mean Girls, and another movie that I don't want to say is very similar, but it would be a spoiler for that movie. So Heathers, it's good. Check it out. It's on Netflix. Number 4, Let the Right One In. It's a Swedish horror, but like childlike horror. I don't know. It's also hard to describe. I like indie movies. Let's say that now. But it's a movie about a vampire and a little boy who fall in love. But it's very much puppy love because they're like 12 years old. Or at least the human is. Third favorite movie, Another Earth. An independent film about a woman who makes a horrible mistake that costs her not her physical life, but like the idea of her life. Like it ruins her life. And she's on a quest for redemption. And number 2 is Birdman. I'm sure you've seen it or heard of it. It won Best Picture the year it came out, 2014, I think. Really good. It's a existential crisis movie. And number 1 is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. A lot of fun, a lot of punching, a lot of coins flying everywhere, a lot of video games, a lot of Edgar Wright talent, a lot of great actors, great acting, hotties. Okay, so that's my top 5. So you have a list of now 6 movies. You're trying to one-up me, but let's hear what they are. I can think of
more. I was just trying to think of comedies, because what's funny is I like to watch comedies, but they're not necessarily my top 5.
Yeah, that's
because they make me laugh and they get me away from life.
A lot of comedies are like really good for, like you said, making you laugh, like taking you away somewhere, but
they don't win Academy Awards.
Yeah. There's a reason that like a lot of comedies aren't great. They're just fun.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So they don't really make my list, which, on meaningful movies in my life, basically. I'll go with kind of oldest to newest, because I don't really have them in order of my favorites. World According to Garp was an awesome movie. I don't know if you've seen World According to Garp, but it's a Robin Williams film. I don't know who wrote it and directed it or any of that, but it was basically, he was conceived by his mother, who was a nurse, I believe an army nurse, and she basically raped a man in a coma that had a boner and created Robin Williams. He knew that all his life. His mom was a nurse and she took care of other people. And he grew up in this home of basically degenerate, or people that were considered degenerates or different, that she would take in and help, and one of them was actually a transsexual woman. Then my favorite musical type movie would probably be Chicago. I really like that. Oh, that's what I meant. Chicago was one of my favorites as a musical. I just thought it was really well made and great. The Big Short, recent movie, I like that one a lot. I thought that made it to my top 5, or at least top 6. And The Wolf of Wall Street, kind of similar to that. Obvious reasons, it's just a really good film, and I could watch it over and over again. It's just crazy to see Leonardo DiCaprio that way. But and then for visual, Josh just pointed out Crash also. Crash I really like, because it's just also, again, meaningful. It's kind of, makes you think, and I like those kind of movies that make you think about things and how people treat people.
Crash is a movie that at some point I would like to review on here, because a lot of people loved it when it came out, and now that it's been a few years, some people look back and shit on the movie. But it's a good movie still. It stands up, it's meaningful, but people sort of, with time, have like forgotten how good it was, and they just toss it off and call it Oscar bait.
Yeah, they cuss a lot in that movie too, which I forgot, because I totally tuned that out. And I thought, I should show this to, for some reason, my mother and father-in-law, and tried to show it to Becky and Chet, and they're older people that, are offended by cussing, so to see that was kind of like, maybe I should turn that off. I forgot how bad it was, but that part of it sucks. I don't like that part of it, but the movie and the basis of the movie is really great. And then one of my really favorite movies that I saw completely by myself in a theater, and it was hard to watch because it's based on a true story, and he has to cut his arm off, is 127 Hours. And the visual parts of that movie, I think the photography or the settings in that movie are just gorgeous the way they did it. So that was just really well made, and told a story all by himself, that made sense and told the true story. So
why did you see it by yourself in theaters?
There was no one there. My dad was actually sick, and I was in Las Vegas, so I was by myself.
All right. Well, that's just about enough about us. So let's get into the movie we saw, which, as I'm sure you guys have ascertained from the title, Green Room. It's a crime horror thriller that came out officially today, April 29th, 2016, the day that we record this, and probably upload it. It was directed and written by Jeremy Saulnier, who also directed and wrote Blue Ruin, which was one of my favorite movies of 2014. I think it was my 8th favorite movie. The plot of this one is, after witnessing a murder, a punk rock band is forced into a vicious fight for survival against a group of maniacal skinheads, which is the synopsis they have on IMDb. Not too spoilery. I think it just gives you enough that you're sort of intrigued. It stars Anton Yelchin, Imogen Poots. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but it's funnier to say it that way. And Aaliyah Shawkat, who I believe is the actress who plays Maybe in Arrested Development. It is. Yeah, I like her a lot as an actress. But, so yeah, the movie is a thriller, and it's very tense. It's similar to Blue Ruin in the sense that, you didn't see Blue Ruin.
No.
But Blue Ruin is I don't remember a whole lot about it, which I actually like, because I'd be able to rewatch it and enjoy it from the beginning all over again, fresh. But, I remember it being like a very Southern Gothic type of thriller where everything is sort of working against the main character in a very, like, to us, very distant, dystopian world. It's very grounded in reality where it's like this kind of place could exist, but it's a place that's so far from what we've come to know that it seems like it's not a real setting. And, like, specifically in Blue Ruin, it feels like the South. I don't remember where it was set or filmed, but it felt like a very Southern movie. And this one, I think, did the same thing, despite the fact that it was filmed, or at least set, in Washington or Oregon, like around the border. So I think that's very interesting that he was able to keep that feel of like a Southern horror film, even though it's not really in the South.
It did, yeah, it did feel like that. I didn't even realize that. So, I thought it was pretty interesting. It was the kind of film I like that's tense, but not totally gory. It's not, yes, you see arms broken and guts and stuff, but it's not in your face, and it doesn't, I don't know, it just wasn't like where you wanted to throw up. It just scared you kind of thing, which I like those. It's not overwhelming.
Just so you guys know, I guess I should touch on this. For the beginning of this podcast, we're going to try to stay out of too much spoiler territory. Like she said, there's broken arms and blood, but that's, it's a thriller by the guy who did Blue Ruin. That's not too much of a spoiler. I would say we'll warn you. Like, listen for a warning, and we'll let you know.
You might have to go back and put a warning.
I might have to edit a couple stuff and bleep a few things that she says. But I'll let you know officially, Mom, and also audience.
I'm only on one glass of wine, so give me a break.
One glass drank on the podcast. So we will let you know when it's time to tune out if it gets too spoilery. But, yeah, so I'm going to read some trivia, if you don't mind, from the Green Room, some little fun facts.
Sure.
So Patrick Stewart, who co-stars in this film, as a character we'll get to after the spoiler stuff, said that in an interview, when he received the script at his country home in England, it was so terrifying that he locked up his house, turned on the security system, and poured himself a scotch. He then knew that he wanted to play the character that he played, because a character that horrifying would be an incredible challenge and make for a compelling film. How do you think Patrick Stewart did? I guess we could say what his role was. He was the villain. He was like the boss of the people trying to terrorize the main characters.
I think he did okay as an actor. Some of the writing on his part necessarily didn't, to me, fit like what a villain would do, or it was kind of some dumb moves he made that was like, what the hell? Why would they do that? That's
been a little bit of the criticism I've heard for this movie and for Blue Ruin, which is that a lot of the characters make really dumb decisions. Not just the villains, but like the main characters too. And I can see that. Blue Ruin too. The director has like been asked about whether or not Blue Ruin and then Green Room, if he's going with a color theme, and he joked that he was actually doing an inept protagonist trilogy, and that his characters were characters that were making essentially dumb decisions, or they're just woefully unprepared for the situations they get put into. And I feel like that is more the case. I don't know if I want to jump the gun and say that they're dumb so much as this is almost so realistic of a movie in terms of a scenario that could happen that I feel like they're making real decisions. They're not making decisions that are movie worthy and that you'd expect to see in a movie, but they're making decisions that people would make in that situation.
Maybe. I don't know. He just didn't, for being so calm and collected, he didn't seem like he was making rash decisions or, you know what I mean? It just, the decisions were kind of like calculated, but they weren't necessarily good ones. I don't know. He was trying to, I guess, if I look at it like the way he was trying to make it so it wasn't messy, you know, spoiler a little there. But yeah, just basically not trying to, the scene of where everything was happening, he was trying to keep that clean. You know, that's maybe why he was acting that way. But
let's just skip to the end and say like what we thought about the movie, like whether or not we liked it, and then we can start spoiling stuff. It'll be easier that way. So overall, I really enjoyed this movie. We tried to keep it secret from each other, and I think my mom expected me to say I didn't like it because I was also praising Blue Ruin a lot on the drive home. I was suggesting that our friend who was in the car with us see Blue Ruin, and I think my mom interpreted that as me not liking this one, but really liking his previous. I really liked them both. I think I liked this one a little bit more, actually, because of some stuff we'll touch on in the spoilers. What did you think? Oh, numerically wise, I guess I would give this probably a 9 out of 10.
I was going to say, let's do like 5 cookies, because Mama makes cookies. No? And you can choose how many cookies. You can cut that out.
I don't know if I'm going to cut that out. I think I'm going to leave that in
or
so
a
people
dozen
can see
cookies.
What I have to
we
deal
could
with.
do a dozen cookies?
No, you can...
Well, okay,
your
what's our
rating system
rating? You
can be
never came
however
up
you
with a
want.
rating system, so you
No,
can
you
tell
can,
me.
I told you can do whatever rating
I
system
like
you
5,
want.
because it's not
You can do
too...
5 stars or 5
so
cookies,
I was thinking
whatever.
3.5 cookies.
Okay.
Mama's cookies.
3.5 of Mama's cookies, which, for the record, have I ever called you Mama?
No. Okay, Mom's cookies. I actually don't like being called Mama. Ask Sierra. Anyway, so 5 cookies is my rating system, and I give it 3.5 because I think it just left a little bit on the way it played out. I liked it, but it was, I don't know, like I kept saying, why don't they just freaking go for it, you know, and just try to get out of there all at once. It just didn't, the whole thing.
You were stuck questioning why characters were or weren't doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
fair.
Yeah, and I was just kind of frustrated in that sense. But it played out, I mean, as well as it could, I guess.
How'd you feel about, overall, without like getting into spoilers, how'd you feel about the general acting skill of the cast?
I think it was pretty good. Yeah, okay. It seemed very realistic, like you said. They weren't, overacting or underacting. It was just right for a realistic situation. But their fear and all of that seemed very real. And
I would say Patrick Stewart was underacting. I thought he had an interesting character, but I feel like, and I really liked him. What?
Who's Patrick Stewart? Which one? Oh, that guy.
Patrick Stewart
was I'm terrible at names.
The leader of the villains.
Yeah,
I thought
he's always kind of plays the same. He doesn't have a whole lot of facial expressions.
Well, I thought he underacted, but not to imply that he was a bad actor, but to imply that his acting was very subtle, which I think the only reason it stood out and didn't like stand out in a huge good way, but it stood out to me in a very subtle way because, which is, I guess, ironic that it stood out because it was subtle, but it stood out to me because he didn't have any huge moments, which is something I saw in another review.
True. Is
that someone complained that he doesn't really have any big scenes that are like, you walk away and say, man, that Patrick Stewart scene. Even the tagline of this movie is a quote from the movie that he says, but it's not really a scene that you're like, oh, that quote's going to stick with me. He just did a good job as like an interesting character, but because it was a realistic movie, they didn't have like a punctuation mark every time that a thing happened.
Yeah.
Like, which we'll get to in the spoilers. Like, I keep hyping up these spoilers. I hope you guys are excited. So let's just get into it, I guess. I gave it a 9 out of 10, which I guess in your system is a 4.5 Mom's cookies.
3.5.
And 3.5 for you.
4.5.
4.5 is my equivalent,
Yeah,
I guess.
correct.
But I'm not going to stick with the mom's cookies
Come
thing.
on, man.
Oh,
You don't like my cookies? I'm not cooking cookies for you anymore, damn it.
you don't do that often. Anyways.
I cook a lot of cookies. Are you kidding?
Okay,
Bake.
let's go into spoilers. So warnings to everyone here. We're about to jump into spoiler territory.
Spoilers.
Okay. So
My wine's
the
done.
punctuation thing that I'm talking about is, for example, when characters died, it wasn't a huge moment, which I really liked. Like, when characters died, it wasn't like, the score wasn't blaring. It wasn't like, oh shit, that character died. It was just like, oh yeah, of course, that character died. They're horribly outnumbered.
But yeah, they should
They're
have ran
locked-
out there with the
They're
friggin'
locked. It's 5 people.
light bulb.
It's 5 people, 4 band members, and some girl that randomly joins them, a Logan Poots character, just joins their team sort of because her friend was killed. Her friend's the one who's murdered. And they just sort of band together against these neo-Nazis that lock them in a room and say, we want to kill you, but we also want to be able to make it look like you were shot for stealing people's gas, not for witnessing a murder. So we're trying to make it like machetes and I don't know. We're trying to make it really clean.
Dogs. They did dogs.
And dogs.
First
Killer
they
dogs.
Dogs kill the first 2, so that they could make it look like.
Well,
and then they had
the
the
first
dog,
one. The second one was stabbed after he flew.
Yeah, but
through
then
the
they had the
window.
dog eat them more.
Yeah.
So they made it look like it was a dog attack, and
Yeah.
they were just camping or something after gas guzzling someone's car, which I thought that was kind of weird. Like, that's a weird way to set up a murder, but okay. You know?
I mean,
Like,
yeah, a bit, but I mean, again, any negative thought I have about this movie as far as a movie goes, I praise it for being realistic. Like, all the things I see in it where I'm just like, well, that's kind of underused. Patrick Stewart could have been a lot scarier and louder, but then that wouldn't be realistic.
Yeah.
It would be like, a movie villain.
And I have to give the props to the makeup artists, too, because they
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
looked real. Like, you could look at the wound. Like, again, Quentin Tarantino's so fake. It's, like, ridiculous. You have no problem looking at it.
Speaking of, he loved this movie.
Really?
There's a quote that's going around about him saying it's like one of the coolest, like, violent movies he'd
But
seen.
this one was realistic looking, but not so gross that you couldn't look at it. It was almost surgical, but like, I don't know.
Which I've heard
you
real
could see the
ones look
flapping and hear them breathing and gurgling on their blood and stuff. And is he still alive? Yeah, he's still alive. And let him breathe a little longer to make the time of death later. And that whole thing, I was like, that was creepy.
It was fucked,
That
but
got
it
me.
wasn't fucked to be like, oh man, he's such a dick because he wants them to suffer. It was, he's a dick because he wants to like fit into this parameters.
Yeah.
So like
still.
the reason I loved it so much is that even though it wasn't necessarily a great movie, it seemed like a great realistic telling of something that could have happened. Like if I'd found out this is based on a true story, I would have been like, oh, not surprised, but
Yeah.
it's so.
We didn't even really get into the synopsis of the story, really, that they were.
I mean, that's probably my main takeaway, like my main negative to it. That's
Well,
the only reason it didn't get higher. I mean, 9 out of 10 is
because
pretty
they
high.
just showed up for some punk rock.
No, I didn't
concert.
mind that because it's just wrong place, wrong time. But that's a common trope, I guess, or common story. My main problem is that it kept us. I mean, I don't think it meant to keep us in the dark, but I didn't really get what was going on sometimes. Which, again, praising it for its realism, because characters don't explain a whole plan to each other the whole time. Like, it's not going to cut to Darcy, who's Patrick Stewart's character, talking to his underlings, saying, hey, you're going to do this, and then we're going to plan this, and this is how it's going to go down, because that wouldn't be realistic. He's just saying the parts that we need to see to try and, like, piece together what we need to do. They're keeping us in the dark. And when they keep us in the dark, like they're keeping the main characters, we're just as afraid as the main characters.
Yeah.
So anything I could take away from it for being like, well,
I
that's
meant
not
the reason
clear.
they even were there. Like, the whole thing started off just, bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time, like you said. And, and it's...
I mean, there's a scene in it when they, like, discover the body, it's because he leaves his phone in there, or because the girl, maybe's character, leaves her phone in there. And Anthony Elchin's like, oh, they told us not to go back in the green room, but I left the phone. Let me just go grab it real quick. And he goes in there, and that's when they discover that this girl's been stabbed while they were playing their music. Which, again, praising it for not having, like, a punctuation every time they have a death scene. This character dies off-screen. The character that sets off the whole thing, you don't even see her die. You don't even get to know her. The only scene we see her alive is her, like, passing drugs
definitely different
from her pocket during the show.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, someone, like, when they were performing the fuck Nazis song or whatever it was. It sounded like fuck Nazis, or it was like fuck.
So yeah,
something
that's
else.
what I was talking about. It was a skinhead party, and you're always punk rockers are kind of, you know, they like mosh pits and all that, but then hard music, but they're really not violent people. The skinheads are, and to go into their territory, to their bar, they must have been desperate to get that $350 they were promised or whatever to do that show, and be in a situation like that because, you know, punk rock songs, like even, I mean, Green Day's kind of mild, but some songs are really not that violent, you know, and they're not meant to be violent. They're about their violent life and upbringing, but they're not meant to put violence on others, and skinheads are. So, you know, that you could feel their tension of when they got on stage, forced to sing a song that was more towards, you know, what their beliefs were, so that they would appreciate their music and let them walk out the door and not beat their ass. They were kind of in
first song. The skinheads hated it, and they were like throwing bottles and like spitting at them and stuff. But the second song, everyone's like, "All right," they're all nodding their head.
Yeah.
And then it did that cool shot where like the music turned light, and then the mosh pitting was done in slow motion, so it looked like a graceful dance. I thought that was really good cinematography, good filmmaking. But yeah, like you said before, the special effects.
It is meant to be a graceful dance, though. You know, it is. If you do it right, you don't get hurt. I've been in a couple mosh pits, son. Mom says.
Yeah, Mom was a punk rocker.
I was an '80s punk for probably 10 years, so I've been to quite a few garage type places like that, and I don't know about, you know, where they charge to get in and all that, but well, actually, yeah, once or twice I've been to some warehouse parties where they charge to get in, and it was kind of set up like that. But you never know what you're walking into. But if you're told that there's it's a skinhead party, you kind of have a different attitude when you walk in there, you know, that you might have to defend yourself because they are fucking nuts. So, and racist.
Did you ever carry protection? Not condoms, like those knives and tasers.
Those knuckle things that you put your fingers in. Used to carry that, and little pocket knife. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you ever have to use it?
No.
That's good.
Luckily.
You didn't witness a murder?
No. Okay. Witnessed a lot of fights, but I wasn't going to jump in if it was like one-on-one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this movie, I think we've been over it enough, I think. But yeah, I really liked it. I thought that any negative problem I had with it as far as a movie goes, where it's like, oh, it didn't do this, it could have done a really cool scene with Patrick Stewart, oh, it could have really done this. Any negative problem I have with it can pretty much be remedied by it's realistic. And that it clarifies a lot of that for me. The only thing that I don't like about it that sticks with me is that it keeps you in the dark a little too much almost, where I didn't think that the characters were making dumb decisions so much as realistic decisions, but not informed decisions. Like decisions that I didn't understand, even though I saw like, well, that's realistic that they're being stupid and staying in that room. But at the same time, I'm thinking like, but why do they think they're staying in their room? They're not justifying it to themselves, so I don't feel like I have it totally justified.
It's a room they know, though. You know, where else are they going to go?
Yeah, and they know it has a lock.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I like I said, I really enjoyed it. Blue Ruin, I also really enjoy, and I would suggest if you like this one, go back and watch Blue Ruin, or watch that first. Yeah, it's a good film, good acting, good cast, good writing. I'm looking forward to his next thing. Maybe it'll be another color movie. Maybe it'll be more inept characters.
If you're cheap like me, I'd probably wait till it came out on DVD. That's just me. I like theater films with big action and big visual things, and this wasn't really that for me. So, I don't know. I would recommend probably wait till it came out on DVD. But
I would suggest movie theater because claustrophobic movies, I think, work really well in the theater because you're in this dark room. And it's a big room, and you're usually in there with a lot of people. We weren't because we were alone until like one guy comes in 20 minutes late. But I don't know. I feel like claustrophobic movies like this and 10 Cloverfield Lane work really well in dark theaters because you sort of feel trapped along with them, which can amplify your fear. Versus, like, if I was watching it at home, I could be like, I'm going to go get a soda, which, granted...
That's true.
I wouldn't do because I'm not going to leave to get a soda in the middle of a movie that I haven't seen if I'd waited to see it till home. But at the same time, I don't know. I'd suggest in theaters. I give it a 9 out of 10. She would suggest DVD, 3.5.
3.5 cookies.
And this has been the first episode of Movies with Mom. Mom, do you want to say anything else before we sign off?
No, son. That was good. I love you.
Don't call me son on this.
Why not?
Because you don't call me son in person.
Joshy.
No, I don't like that either.
I love you.
This has been a mistake.
No, it isn't. I'm pinching his cheeks right now, but you can't see.
So maybe we'll see you guys again.
Oh, we'll see you again. Are we going to do the Prince next? Because
next
Prince
week.
passed away.
Should we say what we're going to do next week?
Yes, I think so.
So, all right. So we're going to, like I said in the beginning of the show, we're going to be alternating each week picking a movie, whether it's in theaters or out of theaters. She's mostly going to pick movies out of theaters probably because she doesn't like the theaters much or like going to it. I do, so I'll probably pick newer movies and in theaters. And her movie choice is, if you haven't guessed...
Purple Rain.
Purple Rain, because Prince died. Have you heard?
I'm sure you have. So sad. But my daughter hasn't seen it either, so I'm making everyone watch it. And it's a meaningful movie, even though the acting isn't the best, in my opinion. But whatever, it was the 80s, so no one cared. But it actually had, really good music, obviously, the whole soundtrack. And it was meaningful, so it has a message.
All right, so look forward to Purple Rain. That'll be our next episode of Movies with Mom. Thanks for listening. Go kiss your mother. No, that's not going to be our sign-off. Go call your mother. Or, no, what's that? What's that rap song? Tell your mother something. Oh, no, it's not Ice Cube, it's the one from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that Ice guy. Ice Baby. Word to your mother. Word to your mother. That's our sign off. Get back here.
All right.
We have to do it together. That's at least our sign off for this.
Ready?
Word to your mother. You know what? I'm forgetting that.